I stood there, in the middle of what used to be our home. The walls were still white, the sofa still in place, but the only thing that remained was emptiness and a handwritten note. Don't look for me. I deserve more. February in New York is bone-chilling. The glass skyscrapers no longer shimmer the way they used to. The penthouse I bought for Natalie was once my pride. Now, it was just the hollow carcass of a dead dream. I'm Ryan Cooper, 38, CEO of a rising cybersecurity firm. Successful, logical, in control. That's how people describe me. I used to think I controlled everything, but I couldn't control Natalie walking away. Natalie wasn't the type to give up easily. She fought for what she believed in, even if that meant fighting for a flashy newcomer named Derek Walsh. I didn't know exactly what made her turn her back on me. Maybe I was too cold, too consumed by work. But the moment I saw that photo of her with Derek, I knew I wasn't just left behind. I was replaced. I couldn't accept it. Not just because of pride, but because I didn't believe she loved him. Derek Walsh is the type I've seen 100 times. Arrogant, lucky, and skilled at hiding behind money. I needed to know. Did Natalie go to him for love, or because she'd stopped believing in me? I hired John, my lawyer and closest friend, to look into Derek. Within a week, he sent me a preliminary report. Derek was building shell companies, cycling shares through shady investment vehicles, and Natalie was listed as an executive in one of them. I didn't know if she was a victim or a willing partner, but I knew I couldn't sit back. Then came the idea. If I couldn't ask Natalie directly, I'd create a fake Natalie. Someone who could make Derek reveal the truth. I called in a director I knew in the casting world. I need an actress. Female. Role, my ex-wife. He paused, then asked, "Who are you testing? Your ex or her new man?" I didn't answer, because at that moment, I wasn't sure myself. The casting session was quiet, held in a dusty Soho studio. I sat behind a one-way mirror, watching candidate after candidate try to be Natalie. No one fit. Until the last woman walked in. She said little, just looked into the camera and spoke. "Ryan, you've changed so much." I felt a chill crawl down my spine. I didn't know her name, just that there was something in her eyes, something more real than Natalie ever gave me. The plan was set in motion, but already I felt unsure. Was I trying to expose Derek? Or was I slipping into a role myself? One where I could no longer tell what was real and what was just another script. I couldn't look away from her. The woman standing in the old casting room, staring through the one-way mirror as if she could see straight into my thoughts. She didn't need to act. She simply existed. And that was what unsettled me the most. The casting took place in a worn studio in Soho. Flickering overhead lights, the scent of dust and stage makeup lingering in the air. I sat behind the one-way glass, unseen, observing. No one knew I was there, not even Claire. Outside, snow fell heavy and soundless. Inside, the world narrowed to the echo of her footsteps. Her name was Claire Reynolds, age 32, former off-Broadway actress, a few small TV roles, divorced, lives alone, self-contained. But none of that mattered as much as the way she stood, unshaken, unguarded, unafraid. Her eyes belonged to someone who had been betrayed, and survived. The line the director asked her to repeat was simple. "Ryan, you've changed so much." I had heard that line before, from Natalie, 3 weeks before she left. Claire didn't know that, but when she said it, she wasn't acting. She was witnessing me. And I didn't know whether I wanted her to stop. I met her afterward in a small cafe downstairs. She listened. I explained the plan. She saw through the plan. "You want the truth," she said, "but you're choosing a lie to get to it." She was right, and I hated that she was right. But I needed her. Her condition was simple. She would control how she approached Derek. No script, no rehearsals. She would move based on instinct. I had no control left, and yet I agreed. She studied Natalie, her voice, her gestures, her emotional cadence, not to imitate her, but to understand her. And soon, the line between Claire and Natalie blurred in my mind. Finally, Claire stood in front of the mirror and asked me, "Are you sure you're ready to see the truth?" I didn't know the answer, but I nodded. Because this was never about getting Natalie back. It was about understanding what I lost, and why. I sat in the van, 3 blocks away from the rooftop cafe, watching the footage from the button cam on Claire's blouse. Derek walked in, phone in hand, flashing that half-hearted smile of his. Claire turned to him with a perfect smile. "Hi, Derek." There was no turning back. The cafe sat atop a boutique hotel in Brooklyn, overlooking the Manhattan Bridge. The early spring sun was just warm enough to shed coats. We chose this location because it was public, open, and perfect for a coincidental run-in. Derek was attending a networking event. Claire, as Natalie, simply had to show up, and let him believe it was fate. John, my lawyer, and I were stationed in a surveillance van just down the block. Derek Walsh, 45, real estate investor, smooth-talking, arrogant. Men like him have 2 faces, one for the public, one when they feel safe. Claire didn't flinch. She walked like a trained actress, confident and precise. But this wasn't acting anymore. This was real. And somehow, I was the one who felt nervous. Derek froze for a split second upon seeing Natalie. Then came the smirk. "Thought you were in Paris." Claire blinked once. "Cancelled the flight." Some things were left unsaid. I held my breath. Every word she uttered now could tip the scale, either expose Derek or spook him off. And we only had one shot. Claire spoke as if she and Derek had shared a much more intimate history than I'd imagined. She referenced those nights in Tribeca, your favorite wine, and things Natalie never told you. I didn't know how she'd gathered so many details. Either she was that good, or Natalie had told Derek more than she ever told me. Derek started to relax. He leaned back, ordered more wine, and ranted about how Ryan never understood investment. My fists clenched. Claire remained terrifyingly calm. "I missed you," Claire said softly. "Sometimes I wonder. Maybe I should have chosen you from the start." Derek raised his brows, then leaned closer. "Ryan never got you. To him, you were numbers. To me, you were instinct." He gently touched her hand. Claire didn't pull away. "Let's go somewhere tonight." Just us, like old times. I nearly crushed the screen, but Claire didn't even blink. Claire smiled. "I'll think about it." She withdrew her hand slightly and touched her necklace, a signal to John to save the audio. I leaned back, heart pounding. We had the recording. Evidence that Derek was using Natalie, or at least her image, for his own gain. But I didn't feel triumphant. I felt empty. Claire entered the van after the meeting. I opened the door. She said nothing, just sat down, removed her earpiece, and stared at me. "You just saw something you weren't ready for, didn't you?" I didn't respond. She closed her eyes and leaned against the window. The air in the van felt colder than before. Because for the first time I realized I wasn't in control of this story anymore. Not of Derek, not of Natalie, not of Claire, and definitely not of myself. I never thought I'd see Claire cry. Not because she was weak, but because she was the kind of person who hid every wound behind a flawless performance. But that night, under the warm hotel lamp, the wig on the floor and her shoulders trembling, she wasn't Natalie. She wasn't even an actress. She was simply human, and hurting. It was the night after the meeting with Derek. Claire had booked a quiet hotel room in Midtown. When she didn't answer my calls, I went there. The room looked abandoned. Curtains drawn, a bottle of wine untouched. The dress she had worn earlier draped carelessly over a chair. Claire sat in front of the mirror, barefaced, silent. A woman studying her own reflection as if seeing a stranger. Claire didn't cry like Natalie did. Natalie cried to be comforted. Claire cried when holding herself together became too heavy. Her strength wasn't in being unbreakable. It was in how long she could hold herself before breaking. When I asked what was wrong, she didn't answer. She just looked at me through the mirror. The look of someone who had worn a role so long she no longer remembered who she was without it. Finally, she whispered, "I've lived this before. Becoming what others want. Wearing the version of myself someone else loved. And in the end, I disappeared. And I realized I was the one dragging her back into that hell." She told me about her ex-husband. How he fell in love with a performance, not the person behind it. How being betrayed didn't hurt as much as realizing she never let herself be real with him. And I realized I had done the same with Natalie. And now, I was doing it to Claire. "Ryan," she said, turning fully toward me. "You say you want the truth, but you're not chasing truth. You're chasing justification." "For what?" I asked. "For why she left you." I froze, because she was right. Then she asked the question that broke me open. "If one day I become who you need, will you leave me when you no longer need me?" I didn't answer, because I didn't know. I sat beside her, silently, not touching, not consoling, just being there. After a while, she said softly, "I need a reason to keep doing this. Not money, not the mission. A reason that doesn't destroy me." I told her the only truth I had. "I don't know what we're going to find. But whatever it is, I'll face it. No running. No blaming." She looked up, not hopeful, just willing. She nodded. "Then tomorrow," she said, "we stop performing. We lead." I left the room quietly, and in the hallway I realized something terrifying. The line between revenge and redemption is thin enough to lose everything in a single breath. I once believed truth came from logic, data, verification, but Claire didn't need any of that. She needed only a few words, a glance, and someone like Derek began to unravel. The problem was, I wasn't in control anymore. Claire had taken the lead, and for the first time in my life, I was following. After the rooftop meeting, Claire told me, "If you want to catch a wild animal, you go into the forest. This time, let me go first." She began investigating Derek her own way, infiltrating investor circles, feigning interest, playing the love-struck ex. She became a version of Natalie even I found haunting. Seductive, calculated, dangerous. Claire wasn't just an actress. She lived in layers. And I never knew how deep the final one went. She teamed up with Elena, an ex-FBI data analyst now retired. Together, they compiled a thick dossier. Derek Walsh's entire investment history. I flipped through the report. Shell companies, suspicious wire transfers, money laundering, and accounts listed under Natalie's name. The worst part? There was proof Natalie wasn't being used. She knew. She chose to participate. My heart cracked open. The woman I once loved had seen what she was doing, and still walked away from me. I met Claire at the studio. She was rehearsing facial expressions for her next accidental meeting with Derek. "You okay?" she asked, noticing my pale face. I placed the dossier on the table. She knew Claire. Natalie knew everything, and still chose him. Claire didn't flinch. She nodded. "Sometimes people don't betray you for love. They do it to reclaim control." Her words hit hard. Maybe I'd never know her reason, but I could end it. Claire proposed a daring plan. Host a fake investor gala. Invite Derek under the pretense she represented a new European fund. Everything he said, every move, recorded, in front of the entire investment community. I hesitated. If this failed, she'd be exposed. I'd lose everything. But if it worked, we wouldn't just expose Derek. We'd liberate me. From Natalie. I agreed. And for the first time, I stepped back. No scripts, no commands, just logistics and legal support. Claire took center stage. I watched her plan every pause, every glance, every carefully orchestrated phrase, like a performer preparing for the final act of her life. And I, who once believed truth only came from evidence, started to trust emotion. Before the gala, I visited Claire's suite. She stood before the mirror, wearing a black gown, deep red lipstick, eyes sharp as glass. "Ready?" I asked. She smiled. "No one's ever ready for the final performance. But I'm ready to end this show." I nodded and stepped aside. In that moment, I realized I no longer wanted Claire to be Natalie. I just wanted Claire to be herself. I've stood on many stages before, tech conferences, investor summits, board meetings, but never had my heart raced like it did that night, watching Claire walk into a room filled with the city's most powerful. She wasn't just acting, she was declaring war. Le Vanier Hotel, crystal chandeliers, oak floors, and champagne-filled flutes. A fake gala, hosted under the guise of a Luxembourg investment fund. John handled the legal logistics. I monitored everything from the control room. Every piece of this plan was a calculated move, except for Derek's reaction. Claire, that night, was no longer Natalie. She wasn't even the Claire I thought I knew. She was fire and steel wrapped in silk. Derek arrived late, arrogant as ever. The way he walked in, expecting applause, reminded me exactly why I despised him. He had no idea he was about to play his final game. Claire approached him with a gentle clink of glasses. "Heard you're looking for a strategic partner?" Derek smirked, leaning closer. "Only if they're worth losing control for." Claire tilted her head. "Then I'll make you lose it." That line wasn't in the plan. I nearly slammed the desk, but the crowd was hooked. So was Derek. She led him to a private lounge, bugged with hidden microphones and cameras. She painted $1 million investment scheme in Eastern Europe. Clean money, offshore. He just had to funnel it through a proxy. He nodded eagerly, then began bragging. About past deals, women who helped him skirt the law, including Natalie. "She was good," he grinned, "but too soft." Claire asked, "What about me?" Derek laughed. "You're the upgrade. Dangerous, sweet, and you know how to drop a king." She gave the signal. The live stream triggered. The main screen lit up with his face and the entire damning conversation. Dozens of investors, press, and a few financial crimes investigators invited by John. All watching. The room froze. Then chaos. Derek turned pale. Claire didn't move. Security escorted Derek out. No allies, no excuses. Natalie wasn't there, but she wouldn't escape either. The evidence was enough to begin a formal investigation into the companies under her name. And me? I didn't feel victorious. I just looked at Claire, this woman who had delivered checkmate with ice in her veins and eyes full of faraway sorrow. I found her on the 23rd floor balcony afterward, shoes off, wig removed, leaning against the railing. "You did it," I said. She didn't look back. "And you?" she asked. "Did you let Natalie go tonight?" I didn't know how to answer. I just stepped beside her. "Maybe tonight," I whispered, "was the first time I truly saw you." Claire turned, smiled faintly. "Let's see if you're brave enough to keep me. Every war has a winner and a loser. But no one tells you that after victory, sometimes all that's left is emptiness." I had taken down Derek. I was free from Natalie's shadow. So why didn't I feel free? 2 days after the gala, New York resumed its rhythm. The media buzzed about Derek's fall. His stocks plummeted. Photos of Claire, the mysterious woman who exposed him, were everywhere. But Claire was gone. No messages, no calls. Her apartment was empty. A single note on the table. "I need time to remember who I am." I returned to the office, tried to act normal. But nothing was normal anymore. John said, "You won, Ryan, but you look like you lost something more important." I smiled faintly. Maybe it was never mine to begin with. Claire wasn't the actress I hired, not a chess piece in my game. She had become a memory, a truth, one I couldn't keep, one I couldn't forget. I was afraid, not of losing her, but of making her play another role if I tried to keep her. Like Natalie, like the past. Could I love someone raw, real, unfiltered? Or did I only love the feeling of being loved? A week later, I received a package. No sender. Inside was a handwritten script. The title, "The One Who No Longer Acts." It told the story of a woman who lived through others until she forgot who she was. In the final scene, She steps on stage with no makeup, no lines, and asks the audience, "If I am only myself, who will stay?" I reached the last page and cried. I went to the theater where she once performed. The manager said she was working on a new play, her first as writer and director. I stood quietly backstage. She adjusted lights, gave cues, guided actors. Her eyes were bright, unguarded. She didn't need me anymore. She had found herself, and I had to answer the question. Do I enter her world as a spectator, or as a man willing to stay when the lights go out? I sent her a small note. If you continue writing this play, I want to be the man in the last row, still there for the final scene, even when the lights go dark. I didn't know if she'd respond, but I no longer needed certainty, only honesty. 3 days later, she sent one email. The stage no longer needs actors, but it still needs someone who believes in real emotion. The last row seat is reserved. Will you come? I smiled, and for the first time, not as a player, not as a planner, I replied, I'll be there, not to watch you perform, but to see you be yourself. I sat in the very last row of the theater. The stage lights were still off. People murmured around me. Someone cracked open a soda in the distance. But I heard none of it. I was waiting for one thing. Claire. Not in character, but as herself. If she chose to show up tonight without costumes, without defenses, then I would choose to show up as myself too. Edison Theater. Small, intimate. No LED screens, no red velvet curtains, no thunderous applause. Just soft amber lighting and worn wooden chairs. The play was titled The Real Her. No promotion, no press, just 87 seats and one performer, Claire. I wore a white shirt, no jacket, no laptop, no earpiece, no phone. I wanted her to see I'd shed my armor too. The lights dimmed, the stage lit up. Claire stepped out. No makeup, no elaborate costume, just a simple black dress, and eyes completely unguarded. Claire didn't perform. She told her story. No flair, no bitterness, just the truth. About someone who was once paid to be someone else, and in that process, found herself, then lost it, then found it again, right before she gave up. She didn't mention my name, didn't mention Natalie, no specifics, but I knew every word was for me. Near the end, Claire stepped down from the stage and walked through the aisles. She asked audience members, "Have you ever played a role just so someone would choose to keep you?" No one answered. No one dared. Then she reached the back row, stopped in front of me. I looked up, silent. She didn't ask. She simply handed me a blank sheet of paper and said, "Write your part. I won't write it for you anymore." I held the paper. My hand trembled. I could walk out, stay silent, let her finish her show as an independent artist. Or I could become a part of the story. Not the director, not the employer, not the victim. Just a man willing to stay after the lights go dark. I pulled a pen from my pocket and wrote, just 3 words. I'm still here. Claire returned to the stage, didn't look back. The play ended. No applause, only silence. Deep, reflective silence. I didn't move, the paper still in my hand. Then, minutes later, she returned and sat beside me. No words, no need. I didn't step onto the stage. I stayed. And that was enough. That night, we didn't talk about love. No promises, no past, no future. Only the present. One seat. One real person. Claire didn't need to be held back. She chose to stay. And I, the man who'd written hundreds of scripts for others, finally wrote nothing more. Because sometimes, silence is a promise.